Greetings all you cool cats and kittens in the vinyl community. Welcome to yet another Vinyl Finds video, but first order of business is I have news. My own album of electronic music created on the Moog synthesizer, Hurtleturtled Out of Heaven, now is on vinyl. And not only is it on vinyl, it's on this splendid and unusual tortoiseshell vinyl, or maybe it's swamp water vinyl, or maybe it's mud vinyl. But in any event, there it is, and it can be yours. It can be held in your very own hot little hands. So, Hurtleturtled Out of Heaven on vinyl. It's been a while since I've been able to get to a record swap. It's been 3 years since I last haunted such halls. There was supposed to be one in March of 2020, and we know what went on then. That didn't happen. There was one in November of 2019 I was unable to make it to, so they haven't started the ones up again at USF in San Francisco. So there was something they called the Rock and Roll Flea Market held in Belmont, California, which is immediately to the south of San Mateo where I live. I made it to that, and I made many interesting scores. Starting with this album by the great master of the Sarod, Ali Akbar Khan. Ustad is a title, that's not part of his name, that's the equivalent of maestro. Rag Mala, which apparently means something to the effect of a garland of flowers, refers to the medley-like character of one of the raga pieces on this. This is 2 side-long raga pieces, 21 and 22 minutes respectively. Both of them are ragas that are characterized with the morning. Ragas in Indian music are associated with different times of day. So these are both morning ragas. Ali Akbar Khan is accompanied by Mahapurush Misra on the tabla and an unidentified tambura player providing the harmonic drone. This is from 1969. I got to see Ali Akbar Khan in concert around 1980 or thereabouts, give or take a year. And he's an amazing virtuoso player. And during the course of the performance, his playing, which was so virtuosic, so fast, so agile, he started keying up the audience, and people were getting really tense watching these flurries of notes go by so fast. And some people started to sort of giggle nervously. And he's up there watching this happen. He's totally aware of the audience reaction to the music, and he's aware of the fact that people are starting to titter because they're just so keyed up and nervous. So he is just blazing away on the neck of the sarod, the sarod being a lute, essentially, a lute with a flat, fretless, metal-covered neck. He's playing these blazing fast runs, and he abruptly slips his hand over the top, slaps the strings, and goes right back into playing the part, and the audience roars. He just totally broke the tension and made an incredible connection with the audience. That always really impressed me, how he was not just an amazing virtuoso, but a real showman. Today, as I make this video on the 7th of August, it happens to be the birthday of Roland Kirk. And I picked up this album at the Rock and Roll Flea Market, Prepare Thyself to Deal with a Miracle, from 1973 on Atlantic, a gatefold production here. And this is an album where Roland Kirk really shows off his ability to use the circular breathing technique of storing wind in the cheeks so he can continue to play the saxophone or another wind instrument, because he plays on here a number of things. He plays the black mystery pipes, the nose flute, the clarinet, as well as the saxophone. But he's able to store wind in the cheeks and blow out while simultaneously inhaling through the nose. So he's able to play for prolonged periods without stopping for breath. And the long piece that takes up side 2, the saxophone concerto, shows that off. An album by Alice Coltrane. Always on the lookout for Alice's work. Eternity. This is from 1978, I think? No, 76. Sorry, 1976. From her post-Impulse period. This is on Warner Brothers label. And this shows a real variety of aspects to Alice Coltrane's music. There are big orchestral pieces on here. There's a piece that's just solo harp. There's a piece where she's accompanied on organ by, she's playing organ and is accompanied by Latin percussion, congas and timbales, as well as a drum kit. And Charlie Hayden plays bass. There's some of the sort of hymn-like gospel chanting with massed vocals. And it is all capped off with an excerpt from Stravinsky's Rite of Spring, performed with a big orchestra of session musicians, some familiar names being included in there. Hubert Laws is on flute among the orchestral players. One of the violinists is Gordon Marron, who was in United States of America. Fred Jackson is on flute. He played with Frank Zappa on the Grand Wazoo album. Amazing album from an amazing woman. And that connects right with this one, also from the same flea market, Illuminations by Alice Coltrane with Carlos Santana. A wonderful album from 1974. Very beautiful, very spiritual. Really takes Santana's music, because this is largely Santana. Tom Coster is the keyboard player on here, besides Alice Coltrane herself. Obviously provides keyboards, but I think there's more harp on here from her. So there's definitely a connection with the Santana band, but Jack DeJohnette is on drums and Dave Holland on bass. So there's that real pure fusion of the jazz world and particularly that very spiritual aspect of the jazz world with Santana's own very yearning music. And I think this is one of the most successful aspects of what started out on this album. Yes, also from that same batch, Santana Caravanserai. Big favorite. I've been looking for a copy of this album for a long time, but I've been holding out for one with a really clean cover because I love this cover so much. And this is what I came up with. Wonderful album. Again, very instrumental-oriented, very spiritually oriented album from Santana. A big left turn from what had come directly before it. Always associated this album somehow with Yes's Close to the Edge, just partly because they came out around the same time, and partly because they both have this kind of very pure, color-oriented covers. Love that. For something completely different, in the prog rock world, Focus, Moving Waves. I already had a reissue of this album, but this is a German copy, an original on Polydor. And this, of course, is the album which contains their big hit Hocus Pocus. And if you haven't seen the live performance of that from Midnight Special that's readily available on YouTube, you've got to see that because it's a riot. Very great classically oriented prog rock from the Dutch masters Focus. And for something completely different again, Moog. I love these Moog-sploitation albums that came out in the wake of the success of Switched on Bach. That some of them followed the same formula where they would take classical music and interpret it on the Moog, and some of them took the pop hits of the day. And since these all came out around the same time in 1969-70, they were the pop hits of specifically 1969 and 70. So you hear a lot of the same songs on these various Moog albums. This one from the London Phase 4 album by Claude, I'm not sure how to pronounce, Danjean, simply titled Moog. And it's from 1970, so we get Nana, Hey Hey, Kissing Goodbye, we get Sugar Sugar, we get Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head, Everybody's Talking, Venus, Come Together, Bridge Over Troubled Water, Lay Lady Lay, Proud Mary. House of the Rising Sun may seem a little bit out of place, but remember that there was a cover of that was a hit in 1970 by Frigid Pink. So that's most likely how that ended up. These London Phase 4 albums, generally you see them with fancy gatefold covers, nice glossy finished paper. I thought it was odd that this one was not a gatefold. It wasn't until I got it home that I realized why. This is a pressing from the Philippines. So usually, even the ones that were distributed in America, they were pressed in England. So the London Phase 4 albums that you usually see are made in England, for sale in America. This one is from manufactured in the Philippines by Super Manila. Not covered, not packaged in a manila envelope though. You do get the nice glossy paper, so it's still connected with the more familiar London Phase 4 format. So that was what I picked up at the Rock and Roll Flea Market, but on the way home from that, I stopped off at my local record shop, Vinyl Solution, and the owner, Tommy, helpfully pointed me towards a stack of records that had just arrived and invited me to thumb through them, and I found some real goodies in there, including this one, David Bowie, David Live, which I've never owned on vinyl before. And this is a better album than I remembered. It's really fun. It's got most of the hits to that date. This is from the 1974 tour. The one hit that is missing is Space Oddity, because this is the tour where Bowie famously performed Space Oddity while suspended out over the audience in the basket of a cherry picker. Because he had to sing through a radio microphone, apparently the sound quality wasn't very good on the vocals for that song, so that's why it would have been omitted from this performance. But otherwise, we get 1984, a lot of Diamond Dogs material, Big Brother, Diamond Dogs. We get Width of a Circle. We get Suffragette City and Rock and Roll Suicide and Moon Age Daydream. So there's the Ziggy quotient, Rebel Rebel. Lots of great stuff on here. Great band. He's got Mike Garson on the piano, also Michael Kamen on keyboards, Earl Slick on guitar, Herbie Flowers on bass, Tony Newman on drums, David Sanborn on the saxophone, and others. Also from that stack, a couple of classic Talking Heads album. More songs about buildings and food. The second album and the follow-up, Fear of Music, an original. These are both originals, so it's got that diamond Well, that's showing up nicely, I think. That diamond plate cover. Of course, this is the one where Robert Fripp makes a guest appearance on Izimbra. Brian Eno, of course, has his making his presence known. So I got a great deal on those. And finally, Morton Subotnick. Later works by him, not the Buchla synthesizer sort of material that he did on his earlier None Such albums, like Silver Apples of the Moon and The Wild Bull. This is Ascent into Air and a Fluttering of Wings, where he has live musicians performing with ghost electronics. There's an electronic soundtrack that the musicians are listening to on headphones, and they're responding to it. And so there's an electronic ghost track that we don't hear, but the musicians are hearing and responding to. So he does that with a string quartet on A Fluttering of Wings and an ensemble of cellos, woodwinds, trombones, pianos, and percussion on the side one piece, Ascent into Air. So that's what I have for us today. Thank you very much for watching. Be sure not to be left out of the rush to purchase Hurtleturtled Out of Heaven. Be well. Talk with you again soon. Bye-bye for now.